All right. Hey, Mike Holmes here. Want to talk to you a little bit about being an effective pastor. And we're going to be talking about just some simple self-discipline things. And this concept we're talking about today is something no one ever really taught me. I didn't have a class on it. I didn't read any books on it. It's just one of those things I had to learn eventually. And that is the idea of doing things ahead of time and making sure I was ready for what was coming. And I'm going to give you the simplest tool in the world to make that happen. So we're talking really about self-discipline here. And my friends, in the pastorate and in ministry and really in all of life, you will never regret being self-disciplined. Let me say that again. You'll never regret having self-discipline. Those moments where you just really buckled down and did what you were supposed to do, you're never going to go back and go, oh, I should have been more lazy or I should have procrastinated more. You're not going to need that. In ministry, though, if we're going to be effective, there are some tools, there are some things that we can do that will help us to be better at what we're doing and be effective. And I want to just talk about this very simple concept here of self-discipline, doing things ahead of time and just keeping a really good or having a really good to-do list that you work on. Now, I'm going to tell you kind of why you should have a to-do list, how to do it, or at least a couple ways I've tried. And then I'm going to give you some very specific things that three things that pastors need to have on their to-do list every single day. So let's just jump right into it. I'm not sure how you've done to-do lists before. I've got a sample of one over here. I just kind of, got a little card and I write notes down on and, kind of check them off as I go. And I've tried that, works pretty good. I've used a sticky note to-do list. I've had them on my computer. I'm presently using something now on my iPhone that seems to be working. Been using it now for a couple different years, and it seems to be a good thing. If you were to run a shop, and this is what we're in a kind of a mechanic shop here. You can kind of take a look at it here. If you were going to run a shop like this, you would need to have a good to-do list. Like, hey, at 2 o'clock, I'm going to do the brakes on that lady's car, and at 4 o'clock, I'm going to change the oil on this, and at 6 o'clock, I got someone coming in after work, and I'm going to help them get their tranny fluid fixed or whatever. You would want to have a good list of what you do, and you want to know that ahead of time. Don't settle for just kind of running by the seat of your pants. If you are a seat of the pants pastor, eventually it's going to catch up and you're going to offend people, hurt people, chase people away, whatever, because you didn't really plan as good as you should have. We need to learn to plan ahead and do things. So a to-do list is one of the very best things you can do. So you can do like say the paper to-do list, some type of a computerized type of thing. You can do all that. One of the great secrets that I learned long ago was to do the to-do list before you have to do it. In other words, do the to-do list be way ahead on some of these things. And I will tell you a thing that helps me best is, as a pastor, is to sit down the night before and go, what am I going to be doing tomorrow? Now, specifically, we're going to kind of focus on ministry things. You're probably going to have a to-do list, for, your wife and kids and other things along that line. But you want to make sure that you have sit down the night ahead of time and you're just really working on what will I be doing in the ministry. Now, let me give you three things that are the topics that need to be there on your ministry if you're going to be effective. And there's going to be things like you're going to have to go to your church and vacuum or fix the broken this or that, because we know how pastors have to do that kind of stuff. I mean, they do a lot of different things and that. But one of the things you want to have on your to-do list for sure is your relationships with other people. In other words, I'm going to stop and visit that person. I need to call that person. I need to send that, we need to send flowers to that family that lost a loved one, or, whatever happens to be. You and I need to really focus on relationships. So when you got your to-do list done, and besides writing get milk for my wife, that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that you are putting down relational things. So every day You need to build relationships with people. And so daily be thinking about those relationships that you need to have. Now, the second thing that you need to have to be an effective pastor on your to-do list is people or things that you're going to be meeting with or talking about or organizing. So this is kind of the, every day you do the meetings, but every week you're going to have, every day you're going to do relational stuff. Every week you're going to have meetings. So you need to have like a, meeting with your Sunday school people, or you're meeting with your, people who are doing your social media, or you need to have a meeting with, somebody to help you do stuff. Please take time on your to-do list to write down meeting things that you are doing with your meetings. So that's a very important thing. Now, another thing that you need to have on your to-do list, okay, is if you're a pastor, is what you are going to be speaking on. And you need to be way ahead on what you're speaking on and not be doing the Saturday night prep stuff. And we've gone through a lot of the disadvantages of prepping on Saturday night. There's so many things that you cannot pull off on a Saturday that you can pull off on other parts of the year. So what you need to do is make sure that you are preparing your message thoughts, and it's not the whole detailed message, but you're spending a lot of time with your message stuff, and you're doing that at least 1 month out. You know where you're going a month from now. It is just such an important thing. And you'll be picking up stuff that you go, oh, and 6 weeks from now, I'm going to be, speaking on this passage or this topic or whatever. And this doesn't matter if you're a topical preacher or you're an expositional preacher and you're doing, or maybe doing like the verse by verse preaching. You kind of block those out and go, hey, in 6 weeks, I'm going to be up to this particular passage. And the focus there that I'm going to work on helping people is to, do X, Y, Z. So you start to write those notes. Now you can do that on your phone. You can do it on a piece of paper, but be planning a month ahead. In your to-do list should have, what am I preaching on a month from now, and what can I do kind of to find an illustration, to find a more verse, and you're having your daily devotions, and you find a great verse on it. It's like, oh man, this is some great stuff. So it is so important for you to make sure that you're doing things ahead of time as an effective pastor. So take time and be an effective pastor and do things ahead of time, and don't get caught like in the last moment for everything. We have a lot of churches, at the church I worked at years ago, we had a cleaning schedule. And one of the things that the pastor was really good at with the cleaning schedule, and it was just the way it worked, is every month a family would, or every week, I guess it was, a family would clean the church, and you would kind of get it ready. And it was a small church, so that's just kind of the way they did it, volunteer, no one was paid to do that. And it was really kind of a good thing. But the pastor had the schedule out there way ahead. So he was always asking, like right now, it is just about the 1st of April. So right now, he'd be asking for stuff like in May or mid-May. Okay, we need someone for May 15th. Okay, we need someone for May 22nd. And he would have those signed up. It is much better to be doing that ahead of time than to be going, we need someone to clean the church like in 15 minutes, okay, for tomorrow. It's got to be done. And as a pastor, if you get stuck doing some of those things at the last moment, it's because you haven't taken time to think ahead of time, and you've not become a do it ahead of time kind of person. So I want to urge you to be a do it ahead of time kind of person, and this takes self-discipline. If you're going to be an effective pastor, you need some tools, and this is one of the tools that you need, is to be doing things ahead of time, and the to-do list is how you write those things down. So if this has been helpful for you, appreciate if you share it with some of your ministry people or subscribe on our YouTube channel. That would be great. You can post this in other places, and we always appreciate that. But I'm going to be doing several of these over the next several weekends. That's sort of the plan where we're kind of going with this. They may not all be exactly at the same time on the weekend, but I'm doing my best to do some of that. So anyway, this is Mike Holmes, and we're talking about the daily habits of an effective pastor and what those disciplines would be. And so again, this is helpful. Make sure that you take time and share this with somebody. So God bless, and you guys have a great Lord's Day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.